Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the WCW Saturday Night Review series for the 9th of May, 1992. One of the members of Alabama, the singing group, is here. There is a interview segment that is Barry Windham and Stunning Steve Austin, or just basically some interview insets. The idea behind these is the match they had a few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week on WCW Saturday Night, ended with Windham having a fall over Austin, but did not end in the title switch, and so there's a rematch to become from there. We go into a match joined in progress, the Z-Man and an enhancement talent. Obviously, Z-Man Tom Zink never really recovers from his brief foray in the WWF to be the star that he could be in '87. Is his WWF run, although he does have some fun stuff here in 1992. Takedown of the enhancement talent and kind of a go behind. Gets pretty aggressive, assertive with the young man here. Zink, who ended up going on to Wrestle War to challenge for the light heavyweight championship. I liked the light heavyweight championship around 92 or so. Bill Watts comes in the summer of the year, and that kind of kills that off a little bit. I like it again in the, let's see, 95, 96 Nitro era as well. But it's just interesting that so many promotions start to feature lightweight talent at the time, and now you can't get a guy with a body who is also athletic but looks natural. You either get the big hulking guys who are, like your Wardlows or Keith Lees, or you get, your skinny wannabe people like the Young Bucks or the that type of deal. It's just interesting that how bodies in the last 30 years in pro wrestling have changed in the mainstream North American market. Anyway, back elbows is really basic stuff. That probably goes longer than it needs to for Zink and this enhancement talent. Zink does manage to botch or not even botch, but miss a drop kick. And that ultimately leads to a bit of kind of square off there. Zink does mount a minor comeback and does so pretty assertively, aggressively here. And that's kind of where it goes from the benefit of everything. And again, we see a top rope drop kick is your victory here for Tom Zink. Zink does go into the Wrestle War pay-per-view and challenge friend and former tag team championship partner Brian Pillman to a championship situation. And I will be right back right after this because that's my phone. We then move to what is actually a better match than it has any right to be, and that is a Nikita Koloff and Mr. Hughes match. Hughes is one of those guys who I enjoy his WCW work a lot from 1991 or 91, 92. I don't enjoy his WWF stuff at any point that they had him 2 or 3 times, and I enjoy some of his ECW stuff, but it was so short term it's not there. His WCW stuff is his best work. Him and Koloff, though, are interesting because it almost seems like they were really trying to push Koloff. I wonder if there wasn't some thought of Koloff eventually being like a U.S. champ again or something more meaningful in a long run, and then his injury in 93 takes him out of that, because this match seems to indicate that they think a lot more of him than they, I don't know, used to, but, shoulder tackles. It's a typical big man match, and if you're not into big men, I can see why you wouldn't enjoy this. Drop kick from Koloff is surprising, and Hughes goes to the outside. I've always wondered about guys that can work in things like sunglasses. It just strikes me as that might be challenging, and then again, maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, Hughes comes back around and tries to use power. They do the Greco-Roman knuckle lock that you barely see anymore, and they do the power struggle for a couple of minutes. And then we see Koloff work the arm in the old school arm wringer, arm bar sort of way. That goes on for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, something like that. And then kind of get a cutoff from Hughes. Basic match, nothing to write home about, but at the same time, it accomplishes the journey of giving Mr. Hughes, who's a big guy, a match that's better than average what he would get in a squash. It gives you the point to care about a couple of weeks away from Wrestle War Nikita Koloff, especially when he does align with Sting's team, if I remember correctly. A sunset flip attempt by Koloff in this does strike me as kind of funny, but that's just because it doesn't really fit with the match. Koloff eventually does get a victory here, and he kind of does the impervious to pain, almost Hulk Hogan-like thing for a little bit. It doesn't last a terribly long time, but it is there, and without a doubt, ends up kind of an interesting little journey, so to speak. In any event, it's without a doubt interesting to me, and again, Koloff ends up looking good in the end. The match goes into some snap mares. I will say the match does go longer than it needs to, at about 7-8 minutes. But again, you've got a 2-hour program, and they were used to having guys like Flair and Anderson and Blanchard to fill with Four Horsemen stuff. When you have that 2-hour program, how do you fill it? Surprised also to see Koloff with a body slam of the larger Hughes. I think they might have given away a little bit of his power, leaping shoulder tackle / shoulder block, kind of like a Sting situation. Sets up for the Russian sickle, doesn't get all he wants. They do the spot where he tosses him off the top rope, does Koloff, and eventually gets the win with the sickle. 1, 2, 3 in the middle. So then we go to the Wrestle War commercials / control center type stuff, as is to be expected. This is rather drawn out. They do War Games hype. Rick Rude is here. He does a promo / sit down interview with the gentleman from Alabama and Jim Ross. During this process, Medusa comes out. Medusa again continues to insinuate that in fact there are multiple women who have had affairs with Ricky Steamboat, and there are women who show to this effect. Vinny Vegas does a basic slime ball Italian deal in the Vinny Vegas gimmick character, kind of an inset, talks about slapping people around. I still think the Vinny Vegas thing could have been something. I know a lot of people laugh at it, but I think they could have done more with it than they did. Obviously, he ends up in just about a year in the WWF as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, and the rest is history. But I think the Vinny Vegas thing still could have had some legs behind it. And to be honest, it's it's kind of a guilty pleasure character for me, in that I think had they done something more with it, and had they really gotten behind it, maybe he bets on his own matches, or he bets on how quickly he can beat people. I think there's just a way they could have done something with it. He goes into an enhancement match and, well, beats up just about everybody in the process, and is really aggressive. Match takes longer than it should, just in the basis of, to me, a guy his size, enhancement match should be 90 seconds tops, but a big body slam along the way does the snake eyes thing, the roll of the dice, so to speak. But at the same time, if you're only giving a guy moderate time to show his value, then that's there. There's a WCW magazine style update. The new tag team champions, the Steiner brothers, going into a match with two Japanese stars at Wrestle War as the new tag team champions. why they did that at a house show, why they didn't show footage. They do show photos, but I'm always a footage guy. Again, another interview where there's discord, or clip of an interview where there's discord between Larry, the Cruncher Zbyszko, and um, the Dangerous Alliances here. Scott Hall, aka at this point the Diamond Stud, who, to think that Nash and Hall are on the same WCW program in enhancement match is kind of interesting. The enhancement talent that is facing Hall manages to try to jump him, which seems goofy at the time, but it makes sense for what it is. Anyway, clothesline on the outside, Hall with many of his signature spots that he'd become known for within probably 6 months or so with the Razor Ramon thing, including but not limited to the Big Chop, the Razor's Edge, and other such. Diamond Stud, again, a character that I never would have let go of in WCW, but again, they weren't thinking in the way of value. I think the Diamond Stud character is just or Razor Ramon more accurately, is just a rename of the Diamond Stud, and I'm not convinced that they couldn't have gotten more out of it. Then we get a really good cruiserweight style match with Brad Armstrong and Scotty Flamingo, aka the man who would later become Raven. They battle over drop toe hold for a couple of minutes. They battle over some basic stuff, including a series of arm drags, and Raven, aka Scotty Flamingo, really good at just doing the back down thing. They battle over some front face lock type stuff. Again, you don't need to be doing a lot in there to get a crowd reaction. Obviously, canned crowd with a TV taping of only a few hundred people, but at the same time, I think you could put this in front of a crowd today in the right area of the country had they been properly reconditioned, and this would be just as good 30 years later if you recondition the crowd. I think there's places in Southern Independence now where this match would be good as well. You're not going to get it on the coast. You're not going to get it with the ROH or PWG crowds, but that's not where your real money is. And so, anyway, odd maneuver as Armstrong actually dives over the top rope, misses a crossbody. Flamingo brings him back into the ring, and we see several minutes of kind of back and forth battle, back to chin locks and the basic stuff. Flamingo cannot get the job done. His facial expressions for his frustration are huge. JT Southern ends up helping him to get a victory. Don't know if that's where there was going to be a long-term team there. Again, I came into watching this first time through around somewhere between June and August of '92. It's remember when I got cable, but the pull of the leg on a inside out or outside in suplex was there. Then we go to highlights of the history between Steve Austin and Barry Windham ahead of their rematch here. They're given like almost 25 minutes in total. Rematch for the television championship. This match, I have to say as good as the first, although results are much, much different. Paul Heyman, aka Paulie Dangerously, here with Austin, really animated in terms of getting him happy and hyped up, and that leads to a positive thing for him. They do some early jockeying position work, basic stuff, headlocks, top wrist locks, nothing to write home about in terms of, a 5-star classic, but it doesn't need to be, as the match tells the story. The experienced Windham is controlling the match every time that Austin doesn't cheat. When Austin gets any opportunity to cheat and or guidance from his manager, the tide of the match moves. Austin misses big moves or misses rudimentary moves, partially because he's overconfident. The story told is phenomenal, and it's basic and it's simple, and anyone out of a wrestling school can do it if they watch enough footage. But it gets the job done. Big backdrops uh, by Wyndham, and then sends with a shot over the top rope, sends Austin over the top. They proceed to kind of slow the match down. Austin gaining a few minutes to regroup on the outside, so Wyndham follows him out there and starts to brawl with him a little bit. Um, and ultimately, that kind of breaks down a little further. Um, Austin catches Wyndham coming back into the ring. Bit of a distraction, a little bit, nothing major. Kind of the takedown there, and some pull of the hair. Big clothesline out of the corner by Wyndham, and Wyndham gets a 2 9/10 near fall off of the lariat, which seems to be one of the most popular moves in the world right now. The lariat, almost everyone's doing it. Still about 20 minutes remaining in this contest. Austin getting laid open pretty aggressively, assertively. Austin using some cheating tactics to get things going back his way. Also using the ropes and any leverage advantage he can get to try and get a pinfall. Doesn't get where he wants to get. Match continues. Cuts Wyndham off with some cheap low blow type stuff. And Austin is back in control pretty aggressively, assertively, and relatively simply, actually. Wyndham does manage to get a fall here, winning the first fall with, I believe, the lariat. And then we go back to second fall. Austin slows the match down, takes him down with some knees, and then back elbows. Austin sends him back over the top rope with a back elbow at this point because he wasn't catapulted over. It's not a disqualification. Spends the next couple of minutes on the floor, arena floor, and match continues to break down from there. Austin is, here, and then we see big vertical suplex, nicely done by Steve Austin. Good pacing. He's always trying to get back to his basics, and then we see him kind of grind down on Wyndham for the next several minutes with chin locks and really basic stuff. One thing I really like that guys don't do enough of is look like they're exhausted. There's a point where Wyndham, who's sent into the top rope, or into the top turnbuckle, is looking literally like his eyes are going to roll in the back of his head from exhaustion. Super, super deal. Then we go to the next little bit of a third fall. Austin, let me see here. Austin does get the second fall, cheating with feet on the ropes. And they've got about 10 minutes left in the program, probably about 8 minutes left in the match because it's a 2-minute wrap to finish the match out. And again, Austin tries to slow things down, head scissors, basic stuff, shots in the middle, and Wyndham fights up from underneath, punches from his knees, basic stuff. Heyman on the outside gets very, I don't know that I'd say nervous, but antsy and uncomfortable. Certainly continues there, and it is what it is as far as, is it a 5-star classic? No, but the nature of the match continuing to build to the finish. Several back elbows more by Austin. Austin continues to not waste a lot of motion, but at the same time is able to get things going towards believable near falls. Big back body drop with about just under 4 minutes remaining in the television program. Austin is frustrated more and more that he can't get the job done. The match continues to break down further. And Austin looks like, at least to his mindset, that he has things done. There is a stun gun style maneuver by Austin post-match, but Wyndham does get a victory here. Wyndham is your new television champion. The exact move he beats him with is, I believe, the lariat again a second time. Let me go back and just double check. But yeah, beats him with a modified roll up and ultimately gets a victory. That'll be the end of that. But in the end, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.